This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998, Ash, Christopher Mitchell and 212th Trooper. Stepping forward, Katie lays a hand on May's shoulder, cool excitement to her voice as she states that it seems the two of them will be facing off for the right to advance to the top 16. A little nervously, May agrees, as while she knew sooner or later she'd have to battle a friend, that doesn't mean she has to be happy about it, since they all worked so hard to get here, and now it'll be her fault if Katie's journey ends in disappointment. Recognizing this from the look in the girl's eyes, Ash then steps in, asking if he can have a private word with his student before pulling her outside. A little concerned, May asks what's up, though calmly, Ash replies that he knows what she's going through, since during his first league he became really good friends with a young trainer named Richie, but eventually they were paired up to battle. At the time he was really conflicted about it, just like she is, but then he and Richie talked, and realized the best thing they could do was battle their hardest out there as a sign of respect. That way when the dust settled they could both be proud of themselves. Clearing her throat a little, May admits that she hadn't thought about it like that, before quickly feeling a smile form on her lips as she declares that Ash is right. The best thing she can do is go all out against her rival, since that's what Katie herself said she wanted when they first met. Confidence definitely returning now, the brunette then prepares to run back inside, though before she goes she does have one question for Ash. Did he win his battle with Richie? To which the boy rubs the back of his head and laughs that actually Richie won, though he learned a lot from that battle, and he and Richie are still good friends, so he has no regrets when he looks back on his first league. Bolstered by this, May eats heartily when the group head to the cafeteria afterwards for dinner, with it only being now that May thinks to ask Ash and Tyson who their first matches of the victory tournament are. While Tyson admits that he doesn't know his opponent, Ash grins that his is actually someone he and May have heard of but never met, that being Vito Winstreet, the son of that family they battled not long after leaving Morville City. Eagerly, May grins this will be a good match since she remembers how tough the family said Vito was, with Ash nodding that he's looking forward to it, so they'll both have to give it their all tomorrow. However, as they will find out, tomorrow is actually a day of rest, with Ash and May using this to train with each other, with the battles being more frenetic and forceful now that they stand as peers rather than master and student. Through this, both trainers feel as though they're as ready as they can be for the battles to come, so that when they return to the Pokemon Center to find that Norman, Caroline, Brock, Max and Roltz have spent the day organizing a celebration for the pair of them making it to the victory tournament, they're able to enjoy it unreservedly, without worry for what tomorrow will bring. The following morning, May is the first called up to battle, with Katie standing poised and confident as ever across from her, that cool analytical glint to her eye that she has shown many other opponents before crushing them. Figuring she may never get another chance if she doesn't ask now, the young brunette queries why her rival has shown such interest in her throughout the tournament, to which Katie answers that it was her passion during the torch run and at the restaurant that drew her attention. As someone who lives in a world of cool, calm logic, to see a trainer full of such red-hot zeal fascinates her, like the addition of tomato berry to spaghetti. Truthfully, May does not know what she'd been expecting, though it certainly wasn't to be compared to food, so that when she calls her Kecleon out onto the grassy battlefield, it is with an expression somewhere between amusement and bemusement. In response, Katie chooses her Scizor, having seemingly predicted May's plan, as when the girl from Petalburg tells her normal type to run into the nearby patch of tall grass and use that as cover to become invisible, Katie as Scizor uses its claws like secateurs to chop down the grass and remove its utility as a hiding spot. Fortunately, by the time Scizor is able to cross the field and begin its pruning, Kecleon has already vanished, with this causing the smallest bead of sweat to appear on the logical girl's brow as the only sign that she is rattled, being one who is unaccustomed to her strategies failing. However, this is nothing to the shock that comes a moment later when Kecleon's tongue lashes out from behind the steelbug for a carefully executed thief. In this case, the thing it meant to steal is Scizor's ability to remain upright, wrapping its tongue around the Jotonian Pokemon's leg, and then rapidly retracting it, so that Scizor crashes face first into the grass, and then is pulled back across it like a plow, leaving a deep furrow that exposes the underlying dirt. Nonetheless, Katie is not known as Cool Beauty for nothing, as maintaining her calm, she has her Pinsir Pokemon wait until it is brought in close, before enacting a clever riposte in the form of its Rock-type hidden power. While normally this is just meant to be a counter against the Fire types that Scizor is quad weak to, here it has another purpose, as having studied May's Pokemon well, Katie is very familiar with Kecleon's color change and how to exploit it, in this case by turning into a Rock type with a point-blank hit that ignores invisibility by simply following the sightline of the chameleon's tongue. Then, once the staggering blow has made it visible again, hitting it with a follow-up Metal Claw that has become super effective. Such a combo is enough to knock the former normal type out cold. As May recalls it with a look of shock, Katie calmly reminds her that she's been observing her all conference, so while she does find her fascinating, she's going to take everything she's learned and use it to defeat her. It is afternoon by the time Ash's match is set to begin, with he and Vito Winstreet making their way to the field while his friends watch from the stands calling out their encouragement. Eagerly, the raven-haired boy tells his opponent that he's excited to finally meet him in battle after facing his family, to which the green-haired young man nods that he's glad to hear his family have kept up that old battling tradition without him, since while he misses them dearly, he's doing his best to grow even stronger and make them proud. With this declaration, Vito decides to start big, rather literally, as when the battlefield opens up as water, he brings out his Wailord whose massive size takes up the majority of the pool. Seeing this also means many of the floating platforms have either been submerged under Wailord's body or displaced to the side where they're useless, Ash decides to go with a Pokemon who doesn't need them, Swellow, having it take to the air and attack from above with Aerial Ace. Due to being so lumbering and also one of the biggest targets in the Pokemon world, Wailord would be unable to dodge even if Aerial Ace's effect did not prevent this, with it taking several painful looking pecks and scratches to its big blue back as this Aerial Ace is chained into Quick Attack. Nonetheless, Ash does not let this early victory go to his head, wisely having Swellow follow up with a Double Team, figuring that Vito might be preparing a counterattack as they speak, though to his surprise, the easygoing young man seems quite content to just watch Ash and Swellow go. While this might be a trap, Ash also recognizes that he cannot win this battle by hiding from his opponent's strategy, with this spurring him on to call for another Aerial Ace as his small army of Swellows rain down blows upon Wailord. This at last earns a Warble from the Floatwell Pokemon, and while Ash initially believes it to be a cry of pain, Vito seems to disagree, instead nodding that his old buddy is right before calling for rollout. Briefly, Ash wonders how a pill-shaped Pokemon can roll, wondering if maybe it does so side to side like a rolling pin, though the truth is far more surprising, as with a heavy grunt, Wailord launches forward so that it is standing on its head like a seal balancing on a ball. Then with another grunt, it tumbles forwards into the water, its long back casting a shadow that even reaches Ash. In such an instant, not being able to tell which is the real Swellow is largely irrelevant, as the water type simply crushes them all, with the resultant crash as it hits the water being enough to send a large portion of the pool's contents flowing over the edge. One such overflow is Swellow itself, as after being crushed by a nearly 900-pound whale and then forcibly submerged, it is unsurprisingly unconscious, forcing Ash to swap it out with Crawdon taking its place. Figuring maybe he should fight water with water, at least in terms of typing, he has his rogue Pokemon lunge at Wailord's now exposed belly and attempt a guillotine to end things quickly. However, nothing can be so easy, as on Vito's cry, Wailord submerges itself fully in order to turn right way up, then launches a water spout that has enough strength to keep its form and power even underwater. As a result, Crawdon doesn't even get close to the float whale, instead being sent shooting upwards by the force of the water blast, all the while screeching its name and flailing its pincers as proof that even evolution could not tone down its large personality. Worriedly, Ash cries out for his friend to hold tough, with it being fortunate that it is making a water landing, as when it crashes back down to the pool with a splash, it is able to surface, albeit with a few scuffs to its hard shell. All the same, when Ash's cry, it goes in the attack once again, this time slashing through the water with crab hammers to create a series of aquatic blades that race towards Wailord. However, once again this is met with water spout, though knowing what's coming this time, Crawdon dives to avoid it so that only the water blades are destroyed, before re-emerging beside the Floatwell Pokemon in an attempt to crunch with its pincers. Unfortunately, this is just as ill-fated as its other tricks, as by slapping its fin against the water a second after Crawdon has clamped down, Wailord is not only able to flick the water dark type off, minimizing the damage, but also create an earthquake in the water that sends Crawdon crashing into the side of the tank with a solid thunk. However, there is one small bright spot. Crawdon did do damage to Wailord, which means when the pure water type fires a water spout with the intent of finishing Ash's Pokemon off, it is weaker. Capitalizing on this, Ash takes a chance, commanding his friend to put all its strength towards swimming into the spout. From his side, Vito calls this a brave strategy, and one he respects, but it won't work, since his Wailord is the master of the ocean. Though grinning right back at him, Ash replies they're not in the ocean, though he and Crawdon are about to make waves. At that moment, the rogue Pokemon emerges, leaping from out of the jet of highly pressurized water with one of its claws raised as it begins to glow. Having seen this before in Ash's first attempt, Vito yelps for Wailord to stop it with a counterattack, since it's clear Crawdon is on its last legs, so one more hit should finish it off, though unfortunately, as against Swellow's attacks, it is simply too slow moving, so that before it can act, the crustacean's claw connects, delivering all the power of guillotine, and knocking the giant Pokemon out in one blow. Jumping back in time to May, she has managed to level the playing field somewhat with her Combuskin summarily defeating Katie's Scizor, then tying with her Mischievous due to her infamous Destiny Bond strategy. Now in her starter's stead stands Snorunt, ready to cool things down after those last few fiery fights, while across from it, Katie has chosen Venomoth now that the fire type is gone. Refusing to be caught on the back foot again like she was with Destiny Bond, May tells Snorunt to get right into the fray with Headbutt, though calmly, Katie just tells Venomoth to stop this. At once, rings of sonic energy bathe the field, though nothing happens to Snorunt, leaving the girl from Petalburg highly confused, though evidently, she is not the only one, as when Snorunt dives into the air, it does not point its cone-shaped head at its target, but directly down, planting itself into the upturned dirt like the world's cutest lawn dart. Worriedly, May asks what her ice type is doing, but the answer becomes clear a moment later, when it starts whacking itself in the face, revealing that it has been confused, and that Katie's unspecified attack must have been supersonic. This is bad, but it is not untenable, as when May tells it to get back up and try Icy Wind, a flash of lucidity washes over its face. Unplugging itself from the ground, the Snowhead Pokemon then attempts to make good on its trainer's order, dancing happily on the spot or breathing a gust of chilly mist up at its foe. However, here too Katie has a solution, calling for Disable, so as Venomoth's eyes flash blue, a different look of confusion from before comes over Snorunt, as it tries and fails to remember how to use Icy Wind, while the small vapor already created dispels in the warm morning air, leaving the Poison Moth Pokemon unharmed. In a confident tone, Katie then explains this is her foolproof lock strategy, and one she's been itching to test against May. Confuse the opponents so they hurt themselves, then if they somehow manage to break free, disable the move and wait for them to start hurting themselves again. Unfortunately, by the looks of it, Katie's strategy is pretty flawless, as by now Snorunt has sunk back into its stupor, creating a line of double-team clones, all of which do a synchronized dance of slamming their faces painfully into the ground. Urgently, May tries to get them to focus up and use Headbutt, but this falls on deaf ears, with the only upside being that after one particularly nasty self-inflicted injury, Snorunt is too dazed to maintain Double Team, so she only has to deal with one adult ice type, not 5. As this happens, Katie and Venomoth do nothing, with this intriguing the young brunette, who asks why her rival isn't attacking, to which Katie sardonically asks would May rather she was attacking? Taking the girl's surly silence to mean no, the cool beauty then elaborates that she has no need to. This strategy is all about letting the opponent destroy themselves while Venomoth doesn't need to burn its energy and stamina pointlessly. Seeing the logic in this, May admits that it is a good strategy, but it's not as flawless as she initially feared, as when she calls for another headbutt, Snorunt's eyes snap back into focus and it leaps, catching the poison bug across the thorax for a critical hit and making it chitter unhappily. From her side, Katie admits that was well done, or maybe it was just lucky. But either way, she does have an additional step to her strategy, a contingency for if her foe can escape the Doom Loop, Stun Spore, as this will trap Snorunt in place and allow her to reapply Supersonic, so it will need to overcome both paralysis and confusion to hit her Pokemon, a statistical improbability that even May's passion cannot overcome. Truthfully, the younger girl is inclined to agree, though this doesn't mean she can't stop it before it happens, as putting all her faith in Snorunt to make a comeback, she orders Icy Wind at the same time as Katie's Stun Spores begin to deploy. For a moment, the little ice type looks baffled, as if it is racking its brain and finding nothing, though just before the goldish powder hits, this all changes, as with the expression of one who has just recovered something precious that they thought was lost to them, it huffs out a volley of snowflakes and ice crystals. Due to being denser than the spores, these act as a shield between them and Snorunt, so that instead of a paralyzed ice type, the audience are treated to golden snow as the stun spores coat the Icy Wind, before blowing up and into Venomoth's face. As a result, the Poison Moth Pokemon is not only paralyzed, but also dealt the damage of Icy Wind, a fact that only compounds as between the sudden chill stiffening them and the paralysis locking them up, its wings cannot support it any longer, causing it to crash to the ground. While it's not bad enough, Snorunt then begins rushing towards it, with this giving Katie a first-hand view at how terrifying her strategy must be to her opponents, as she must watch in horror as Venomoth is headbutted off the grand stage and into the wall where it lies unconscious. With this victory, May has at last secured herself a lead, and not only that, but with 3 of Katie's Pokemon down, it is time for intermission and the changing of the field, meaning from here on out, it's a whole new battle. Speaking of new battles, since we left him, Ash has had a few, as following his victory over Wailord, Crawdont unfortunately fell to Shiftry. This was avenged by Grovyle, who sent the Tengu packing. In turn, Grovyle was then defeated by Vito's Alakazam, necessitating a field change to Ice, upon which the first new match occurred, as Vito used Dodrio and Ash called on Claydol. Thanks to its Titanic status, the ancient golem made short work of the bird, and even tied with its fellow Psychic type when Alakazam returned to the field, making the next match Pikachu vs Manectric. Unsurprisingly, Ash's best buddy proved himself the undeniably superior electric type, though this reign was short-lived, so when Vito brought out Steelix, Pikachu had no chance, as with no Iron Tail, all his moves were either completely ineffectual, or so heavily resisted they may as well have been. And so it is that now the final match begins, Torkoal vs Steelix. Though this is not just any battle, as upon spotting Steelix, Torkoal bursts into tears, evidently terrified of its opponent. Due to his strong bond with his Pokemon, Ash has a hunch as to why this might be, and so asks Vito if he possibly caught that Steelix in the Valley of Steel not far from his home. Grinning happily at the memory, the Windstraight Scion nods that he did, before asking why, to which Ash answers that his Torkoal was also from there, and used to be bullied by a Steelix, who he believes may be this Steelix, which is why it's so upset. Sighing, Vito gives his deepest apologies for his friend's past misdeeds, who is afraid he doesn't have any other Pokemon with him, so this will have to be the matchup, with Ash shrugging that it's fine, before urging Torkoal not to be scared, but to instead look at this as a chance to show its former tormentor how strong it's gotten. Liking the sound of this, the cold Pokemon erupts with a gout of smoke that dries its tears before going on the attack with an all-out overheat. However, having been prepared for this, Vito responds with an Iron Tail, batting the blast back and causing it to hit Torkoal for a powerful explosion. Letting out a pained screech, the hot turtle goes skidding back, though thanks to its steely hide and even steelier resolve, there's not enough to take it out. However, it is bad news, as that overheat was the strongest, so no any further usage of the move will pale in comparison. Nonetheless, when Steelix next goes for a dig, Ash and Torkoal are quick to respond, cleverly employing a burst of black smoke to obscure their part of the battlefield, so when the Steel Serpent rises, it has missed its mark. Fortunately, the same is not true of Torkoal, as at that moment a second overheat bursts from out of the smoke to strike Steelix head on, and with its tail still mostly buried in the ground, it cannot bat the super effective move away. Approvingly, Vito calls this a clever plan, as that was still a decently strong fire move, though Ash is not the only one with powerful moves. A fact he makes clear when he has Steelix follow the gap overheat made in the smoke right back to Torkoal, so they may grab at its metallic maw for a crunch. Desperately, Ash gives the only command he can, Iron Defense, with the tortoise obediently coating itself in steely sheen, so as the Iron Snake Pokemon chomps down, it becomes a contest of unstoppable offense against unyielding defense. However, while the defense will not yield, it can still be crushed, a fact Torkoal becomes aware of as the tombstone teeth of Steelix gnash against its back and underbelly. From the looks of things, it seems the fire type won't be able to take much more of this, with the Iron Defense being the only reason it isn't unconscious already. Though refusing to accept defeat, Ash makes an audacious call, telling Torkoal to turn round in Steelix's mouth so that it is facing inwards. This is a truly terrifying prospect for Torkoal, as it will literally be facing the belly of the beast and staring down the barrel of the Pokemon it fears most, with Ash recognizing just how big an ask this is. However, by the same token, he has every faith that Torkoal can do this, telling the fire type as much and claiming that it is braver than it thinks. At first, it seems this encouragement is insufficient, as it bawls in fright and pain as Steelix's teeth continue to bear down upon it, though when its terrified eyes fall upon Ash's and see the resolve blazing in them, it steels itself and slowly begins to turn. Recognizing what his rival is planning, Vito tries to tell his Serpent to spit the other Pokemon out, though it seems it is already too late, as having moved into position, Torkoal braces itself, then on Ash's cry launches an overheat right down Steelix's gullet. Due to this being a place attacks do not normally go, the Steel Ground type is hit for catastrophic damage, far more than even something as big as it can take, with it coughing up plumes of black smoke, while Torkoal tumbles from its lips and back onto the icy battlefield which has been rather churned up by Steelix's dig, creating a series of slip and slides that carry the fire type safely down to the ground. However, the same cannot be said for the Steel Ground type, as with a final cough it falls forward to lie in front of Torkoal, its eyes now bearing the fear the fire type had for it in a strange reversal of their fortunes. However, this is not long lasting, as a moment later they turn to spirals, while Torkoal stands proud, its trademark tears now being ones of joy, as it beat its old foe and secured Ash a spot in the top 16. Back on the rock battlefield with May, her own top 16 dreams hang in the balance, as she now brings out Lairon to face Katie's Walrein, having lost Snorunt, Marill and Zangoose, albeit after they each put up a good fight taking out her rivals Dugtrio and Golduck. From the outset, it is clear this will be a tough battle, as while Walrein is weak to Lairon's rock typing, it is in turn vulnerable to Walrein's water. Figuring proactivity has worked in her favour before, May chooses to start things off again, calling for a rollout, though here Katie has a defense, using Ice Beam to create a solid wall of ice so thick that Lairon bounces right off it, depleting its momentum and leaving it sprawled on its back. Nonetheless, this does not stop the Iron Armor Pokemon, with it simply getting back up and rolling again, this time taking pains to veer around the ice wall and crash right into another, as it seems Walrein can create them with impressive speed for how sturdy they are. Once again, this results in bouncing off the icy structure without even leaving a crack, though this does leave the first inklings of a crack in May's calm, as if she cannot get to Walrein, how is she supposed to beat it? To make matters worse, the Water Ice type has no trouble getting to Lairon, as by firing off a Hydro Pump, it is able to hit it while it's down, sending it crashing into a nearby rocky outcropping and bouncing off. However, rather than discourage May, this gives her an idea, with her telling Lairon to use Rollout again, while giving it a very specific route to use. While to the outside observer, this might just appear as an attempt to reach a point Ice Beam can't land, or worse, an act of desperation from a worn-out battler, is actually something far more, so that when Ice Beam creates another wall, May doesn't miss a beat, having Lairon change heading and roll towards another point she has specified. As this happens, Katie continues to hold her rival at bay with Ice Wall after Ice Wall, so that soon a dozen or so of them stand like sentinels between May and her target. Curiously, the green-haired young woman then asks if May is ready to concede yet, since while this was a good fight, her defensive strategy is impenetrable. However, rather than the dejection she expected, Katie is met with a grin, as May retorts that actually she's much ready to win, since she's been setting things in motion so that Katie's defenses will be the instrument of her victory. At this declaration, she has Leron use its fully empowered rollout, though not to charge at Walrein as it has before, but to lunge headfirst into an ice wall. Like the other impacts, it holds firm and forces the steel rock type to bounce off, though this is just what the girl wants, as Leron ricochets from the first wall to another, and then another, and then another, picking up momentum all the while. Suddenly, everyone understands what May has done, as by using her eye for aesthetic and positioning that in another life would have made her a great coordinator, she has tricked Katie into placing ice walls in the exact locations she wanted, so Leron can pinball right into Walrein for super effective and super speedy damage. Having never imagined someone could out-strategize her, let alone lead her along like a fool, Katie has fallen for this hook, line and sinker, and so now she must pay the price, as the first of Leron's impacts strike true, making her Ice Break Pokemon bellow. However, this is not the end, as one hit would not be enough to fell a sturdy specimen like Walrein, with Leron instead bouncing off its blubbery body and back into another ice wall, to begin the rollout ricochet strategy all over again. Now being the one to lose her cool a little, Katie commands Walrein to break the ice walls with Hydro Pump, since just eliminating one would break the chain and cancel May's strategy. However, it seems Walrein simply did too good a job in creating them, as having been reinforced to withstand a speeding steel rock type, these walls can handle a jet of water, much to Katie's frustration. As this happens, Leron strikes again, its metallic spines raking Walrein for extra damage, though before it can vanish once more into the maze of walls, Katie has Walrein use Mimic, allowing it to copy rollout. As a result, when Leron bounces away, Walrein follows, with Katie's smarts allowing her to effortlessly chart the geometric angles Walrein will have to hit in order to hunt down its foe. By now, the walls are beginning to crack, as Walrein is a good bit heavier than Leron, meaning its impacts do damage their structural integrity, with May realizing that if she wants to win with this strategy, she has to do it now. To this end, she commands Leron to stop running and begin closing in on Walrein again for a direct collision, a challenge Katie welcomes, as math would dictate Walrein's mass plus momentum will overpower Leron's and give her the win. However, just because May said she wanted a collision does not mean she meant a head-to-head one, as at the last second, she has Leron change course, striking not Walrein, but an ice wall adjacent to it, so that it bounces back to hit the Ice Break Pokemon in the flank, while it deals no damage in return. Due to the surprising nature of this, the Water Ice type is thrown out of rollout and down onto its back, much like its foe was at the start of the battle, though unlike Leron, it does not get back up, making Leron the winner of this match, and May the winner of the battle. As this is called, the twin-tailed girl lets out a cheer and runs onto the rocky field to hug Leron, calling it the greatest, while Katie applauds from her trainer box, smiling softly that a part of her is glad passion won out over cool logic, as it reminds her there are still unexpected variables to explore, so for that and a remarkable battle, she thanks May. Smiling broadly, the girl calls it her pleasure, then as she rises to her feet, she strikes the V for victory while her friends and family cheer. That evening, back at the Pokemon Center, Ash and May are at last able to reconvene and formally congratulate each other on their wins, with Ash crediting her on her battle against Tentacool for inspiring his and Torkoal's victory, while May in turn grins that she was channeling Ash for that Ice Wall win. Truly, it is a happy moment in which two companions share their mutual respect and admiration for each other, though like all good things it must come to an end, as tugging on their sleeves, Max points up to the big screen announcing the top 16 matchups, and as Ash and May look for their opponents, they are shocked to see that they will be facing each other tomorrow. And that's where we'll leave things. What strategies will Ash and May pull out now they're battling one another? Who will win when they finally come to blows? And how will this battle affect their friendship moving forward? Find out as the journey continues.